Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the DJ Force X podcast. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you guys today to David, aka The Plague. Welcome, David.
Thanks for
Sorry,
having me, Barnaby. It's a pleasure.
sorry, there's no fanfare, no crowd noises. There's no one around me.
Oh,
Sometimes,
they're in my head. I can imagine
okay,
them.
cool. Sometimes you hear my dog bark, but that's about it.
Well, then thank you.
Yes, no worries. But no, thank you for joining me today. It's an absolute, obviously, I'm gonna say pleasure straight away, preempt the whole conversation. But I'm really enjoying the album. That as of recording this is out tomorrow. But FiXT are lovely to me, and they send me pre-streamable copies of said albums coming out on that label, and yours was one of them. So I've had it for a few weeks now, and it's a fantastic. It's called the Divided States of Hysteria. Everyone, it is out on the 28th of February. Let's get the promo out the way. Um,
Right. Sweet.
which, as of recording this, is tomorrow. But when this comes out, it will probably be like a week or two ago, so it will already be out for everyone at that point. Um, but yeah, obviously you're a member of the FiXT roster. I've had many numbers of FiXT artists on the show, including the two head honchos. Many years ago, I've had Clayton twice, and I had James on as well. And I've had like a plethora, I think the word is, of their artists over the years. So it's always nice to meet a new one. Hello. Uh,
Hi. Yeah, I was
um,
watching an episode with Zine just before we got on the call
oh
from FiXT.
yes,
Those
yes,
guys are awesome.
they are. They are. I'm enjoying.
Talented bunch.
They are indeed. I'm enjoying their latest album as well, the Isolationist. I actually I ordered the vinyl copy and I had it sent to me.
Oh, fancy.
I know. These turntables aren't just a background picture; they are real. Um, but yeah, no, I love those guys. I've had them on a couple of times now. I had Zine on last time, and I had Zine and oh God,
Tyler would be my guess.
sorry, Tyler. Yes, that's it, Tyler. Yes. Um, and yeah, no, fantastic band. I mean, the label itself has always put out quality releases in my eyes anyway. Like I listen to everything I get sent by them. I don't have shares in them, just to let everyone know, because I do have a lot on here. I have no stake in the game.
Paid
Um,
advertisement? No, okay.
I used to have a little, like, Force X like code they used to have in the FiXT store, and it gave
Hmm.
people like 10% off.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
I don't know if anyone used it. I don't think anyone did. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I've stopped doing advertising. I've remained completely independent, and that's how I'm going to stay, I think, because I've got a day job that pays for this. So, um, but yeah, no, back to FiXT. Like I said, I've had loads of their like artists on there. But what I want to find out first, before I get onto your actually before we get onto the relationship with FiXT, is the origin of the plague, because this is your second album coming out. So you do have
Yeah.
a bit of history on that front, prefixed as well. But yeah, if we could dive into that side of it and just sort of get a bit of like background on your musical self.
Sure. Well, my first band that was really serious was in my teenage years. We played our first show and got on the Vans Warped Tour, and we became a Warped Tour band for a long time, where we were touring for 4 or 5 years. And once that was over, I really wanted to get into music production. So I
Yeah.
did move to Boston and applied to Berklee College of Music, and I got in on a scholarship, but I didn't end up attending. I just opened a studio in Boston, and I produced bands from all over the world for about 10 years. And once I got to the point where I felt like I had that had run its course, I decided, I'm contributing a lot to these other bands. I'll do my own project.
Yeah.
So my dad also got diagnosed with cancer at that time. And so I moved back to upstate New York in order to be near him and start the band The Plague with my best friend at the time, Orrin Hoffman, who we ended up taking a long time to just do the best that we could to make that record. It actually took a really long time, but when it came out, it had a good response, and we were excited about it. And then there was a bit of downtime because of a lot of personal things that happened in life, including my dad passing away and a few other things. And so, man, I'm just getting the text
You
messages.
are. You are.
Um, I'm not that popular. It's one person.
Okay.
But yeah, there's so after a bunch of downtime, um, Fixed and I had been in communication for a long time. There was a point where I knew that Clayton was looking for an assistant in the studio, and we were talking about potentially working together in that capacity. And then around the time that the first record came out, started talking to Fixed about signing to them.
Yeah.
And then there was the lull. And then once the I came back to life after the lull.
Nice.
We were still talking and decided to pull the trigger.
Nice. Excellent. No, no, that's I mean, that's cool and fixed part, like obviously keeping in contact and keeping that line open. Obviously, like you say, after the lull, where everything kind of went lully. Um,
Lullaby, lullaby. Yeah.
lullaby, yeah, exactly. And yeah, it was like seeing a resurgence of everything, which is nice. And obviously, you getting your musical itch back, if you will, releasing as
Yeah.
Plague and everything. But what was the band on the Warp Tour? Who was the band you were in originally, if you don't mind saying?
It was a band called Third Estate. It was funny because I don't know if you remember a band called Thursday,
Yes.
but all the time we were just people would say, "What's your band name?" And I'd say Third Estate. They're like, "You're not in Thursday." I'm like, "No, we're not. We're not Thursday." So yeah, it's funny because I'm dating myself, but that band was like pre MySpace, so all of the stuff
Okay.
we did was like before the internet.
Yeah.
There's potential for you to Google the posters from Warp Tour around like 2002, 3, 4, and see our name on there. But other than that, it's just in obscurity.
Okay. No temptation to find it, remaster it, put it out.
We've actually, yeah, because everybody else from the band is off doing stuff. Like the drummer Gary's playing in Mest right now, and the bass player Ron is playing for Wolfgang Van Halen, and the guitar player is still in contact with bands from Warped Tour. And so, like, people are always saying, "Hey, why don't you post your stuff on Spotify?" I don't know how we didn't get around to it. I suppose it's my responsibility. I don't know why I haven't gotten around to it.
Well, you've got the plague. Not literally,
Yeah.
but you've got the plague. But yeah, no, I mean that's interesting. I love that. I was fortunate enough to attend one of the last Warp Tours in the States.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
Obviously before this renewal of it that's coming. But I used to live out in Tampa, Florida, and that was one of the stops, sort of St. Petersburg, Florida. Um, and before I left Florida, I got to go and be part of one, which was great because it doesn't really. It used to come over here. It used to be part of Reading Festival. Um,
Oh, okay.
it used to have a big stage on that one. It was the Vans Warped Tour stage, and they used to have like just a stage of the like bands that whatever bands could make it over to the UK, but also obviously with some US sort of punk, skate, new metal bands and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Which was cool. And it's nice to see it kind of come back. I'd like to kind of see what that looks like, whether it's like a, when we were young type situation, or whether it's like the Vans Warped Tour, where it was
Right.
very like DIY, very like bands going out, handing out flyers on the day because you didn't know where you would be on the lineup and all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
That's what I loved about that because it was like that element of DIY, but in a well organized, well, I say well organized, probably
Yeah.
chaotic, but festival. And it was like it made obviously the bands do work while they're there
Oh
rather
yeah.
than standing up and play. And
It captured the spirit of the scene. It had all the bands, and it was like, especially in 2002, which was the first year that we played. I think it was one of the biggest, if not the biggest year. But it was just this convergence of like the underground was becoming popular. There was half pipes. There was people getting shot out of cannons. There was like a freak show. It was just had all of the different like alternative cultures getting represented, and it felt like a melting pot of people. So it
yeah,
was really cool.
no, exactly. It was a fantastic thing. Hopefully it will have the spirit of that as well. Probably with
Yeah.
health and safety laws kicking in, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
because
it's also tough because it's just such a different marketplace these days, right? Like I remember back then you would tour, and every time you tour, more people would show up, and there was a sense of a lot of the live shows were the thing. And as an artist that's my size now, a lot we're trying to do so much that's just online, online, online. And I think that it lends itself to having products that are marketed a bit differently. So the successful bands, like I can think of so many great bands that are probably on Warped Tour this year.
Yeah.
I just imagine that it's a slightly different culture because it's like you take a culture and a community online, and then rather than having being like a skate culture necessarily, or some kind of other thing. I'm curious to see as well.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see how that turns out. But yeah, obviously you've got this album coming out tomorrow. Obviously you're excited. I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah, good. um, but how has this album come to be? Because obviously with FiXT, they have their, as we were talking, like online marketing and whatnot for bands and stuff. Obviously, FiXT are very much online content focused. Like that's their like key to a lot of what they do. And obviously like constant releases and things like that. Obviously, the album tracks that you've got out, and also if you're in the remix part of it as well, which I know you have done previously, uh,
yeah.
and things like that. But how have you found that kind of like that I guess culture when it comes to that sort of side? Because it's very different from traditional labels. I mean, I've had like various bands on here, the Browning one, and that was very different sort of for them because they've got obviously a track record prior to FiXT, with various
Sure.
other labels, and that sort of like process that they go through. I say it's a traditional process, but it's more what they would go through. But then FiXT have kind of redefined what that looks like when it comes to independent
Yeah, for
labels.
sure.
But how have you found that kind of like that sort of, I guess, lifestyle, like that ethos, if you will?
Yeah, well, it's a great question because there's another on top of Fix being a very internet stream centered label, it's also coming post COVID where like
Yeah.
a lot of things changed for a lot of artists, and then even after that, now touring seems to be kicking up again. So there's like a lot of moving parts and kind of differing expectations. I settled down into feeling like, man, I could really just be a studio rat for a while and just pump out jams and stuff. But lately, I've been really itching to get on tour again and seeing the Browning out there, touring and doing stuff. I'm like, oh man, maybe, maybe it would be appropriate to do
Yeah.
again. This record was a tough record in a lot of ways. Uh, like I said, my father passed away, but also a bunch of other family members passed away, and I come from a small family to begin with,
Okay.
so that left me with not very much family. And then also, in response to that, I developed a very bad drug addiction that I'm now coming up on 5 years sober from.
Right.
But at the time, that was a very poor response to all of the loss. So not only did I almost die of a drug overdose several times and have been having surgery over the past 5 years repeatedly. In fact, I have another one coming up next month. But on top of that, there was also a sense of my friends all left because of my addiction. And so when I signed to FiXT, I was in a really tough place where this record was like, as a solo artist, I'm singing, writing, playing guitar, programming all the stuff, mixing, mastering at times, and then social media stuff on top of it. So it can be a really lonely grind. And it was really nice to have some sense of support through FiXT, but there's only so much that a label can really do practically. Like I need to sit in my studio, alone a lot of the time. And since I was grieving a lot, there's a few songs on the record that really reflect the difficult time that I was going through. And there's some songs that are just kind of the normal plague sound that you would expect from me. Uh, Something that I will say is the first record, I wrote basically 95% of the record, and I played all the performances and I did all the mixing and mastering. But the my friend Oren, who did wrote some of the record, at the time I didn't realize how invaluable it was just having someone to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
So doing this record alone in the studio really was like culture shock of what it takes to do something completely alone. And it was stunningly difficult and really helped me to appreciate his involvement in the previous record, and then also anything that as a Christ follower, like I was bouncing off of my relationship with God a ton. So anything that sounds like the classic Plague sound is a miracle because it's a very authentic part of me really trying to, you know, drive sail the ship,
Yeah.
trying to navigate through new waters, and it was a tough record because of that. It's a lot of work to do. So
I can imagine. I mean, obviously, with what you've gone through, it's and I've had various people pass away from my family and my wife's family as well,
yeah,
and it's sort of like, yeah. I mean, obviously, I've got quite a big family, so whether all that's a good thing or not at the moment, I'm not sure.
oh sure, yeah, no, there's pros and cons, I imagine.
Yeah, because it's one of those things. I don't want to delve too deep into it, but it can create various fractures and difficulties because people go through things very differently, and
Yeah,
especially when like with yourself, you're dealing with addiction. I also have that in my family as well. Like one of my siblings is a recovering alcoholic,
yeah,
and also delved into the sort of like drug side of things as well as like swapping one for another, going through that sort of motion and all that kind of stuff. And then I've got others with various other sort of mental health related issues. So it's yeah, it can be a lot, especially if you're going through it yourself, like you said, like you 5 years sober, or 5 years clean, which is fantastic. I mean,
yeah.
that's amazing in itself. Like that's something to kind of scream about, at least on that front.
Yeah. Well, like, thanks. It's by the grace of God, but that's kind of the message that when I'm even thinking about the podcast today and talking to you, like, it would really mean a lot to me to get it across to anybody out there that's struggling that there is a higher power that loves you and that it is possible to get sober and that people have been there and you're not alone. And it's not something that is so unique to you that you need to feel alienated from the world. Like, I feel like a lot of addiction comes down to the fact that it's just so hard to talk about and it's hard to process the things beneath it. And
Yeah,
that's a shame.
yeah,
I will say 12 step. I'm a person who went through tons of therapy in my life, mostly trying to process things, but also to get clean from addiction. And when this overdose hit me this hard, I thought I was invulnerable to it because of how much therapy I've done. But really, 12 step is what has kept me sober. And I think that the combination of 12 step and therapy is like 12 step helped me change the behavior, and therapy helped me process what was underneath once uh, I was able to process some of it without fully removing the addictive cycle. But now that the addiction is way further out of my life, a lot of the stuff has come up and been possible to process, which has been a miracle.
yeah.
So,
Excellent. And obviously having an art form to kind of channel in as well, which I know
oh yeah,
a lot of artists like process various things in their life, from something as, I say trivial as a breakup, but from breakups, which you hear a lot of, or love songs,
yeah,
which you hear a lot of as well. But obviously people going through various issues like yourself with addiction, mental health, stuff like that. I've always found music to be a therapy for me in that respect, not just listening to it, but I used to be in a band as well, and um
oh,
process like various things through either the live performance side of it and just sort of being erratic, and that was the dangerous part of it for me, because I was
yeah,
very I did a few things that hurt myself, like I've got like probably permanent injuries from it, sort of thing. But
oh, no.
it's something, it's I kind of wear it as a almost like a badge of honor in some respects, because it's like, I went out, I did this, but I hurt myself. So I can warn other artists of said things. Um, um, but yeah, no, it's great. Obviously, you're channeling that, and obviously using your faith as well as a guide and as a
Yeah.
like source of strength.
Well, it's like I can relate with what you're saying about injuring yourself through expressing yourself. I feel like that is the danger that we run when we need to express ourselves so badly. Like for me, I felt like there weren't people listening. And I don't mean to my music. I mean to like to me. I didn't feel heard. And a lot of music was like just trying to get it out there. And it's really interesting to take something so far that I end up hurting myself.
Yeah.
That's, that's when it's like, man, there's really some unmet need. And like, that music is totally a healthy coping mechanism for the most part. It's just that anything can be used to replace relationships with God or relationships with ourselves or relationships with people. And I think it's invaluable. I need those things, I'm trying to make music like a service to people rather than something for myself necessarily. But like, of course, so I just finished reading Rick Rubin's book, and his whole thing is like, don't make music for other people, make it for yourself. If you make it for you, you'll be making it for other people. And I think that that is an awesome thought. I just also think that like my purpose is to serve others. So there's a sense of like, I need to suffer well. I need to make sure that I'm getting myself into situations, fully feeling things so that I can write them in a way to the best of my ability and hope that other people feel connected to it by like that service.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the kind of person like you where I want to be just giving my whole heart and soul on stage. I would, rather than being someone who looks cool, I would rather be doing a backflip so people go, yes, he put an effort to entertain us. Like, I want people to feel like I really put my heart into it and that there's value because they're worth being entertained in a meaningful
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. No, that was kind of like what I was going through. I was doing silly stuff, throwing myself against walls, headbutting the wall, in fact. And I was the scratch DJ in a band. So it was very much like, I guess like,
Oh, a lot of this.
yeah, a lot
A
of
lot
that, a lot
of
of that.
this.
And not to, I mean, Sid from Slipknot was the actual, like, he did a lot more stuff than I did to hurt himself and others. But no, I used to like smash vinyl on stage, so I get like clips in my face, like cuts on my face,
Oh gosh.
arms,
Right. Yeah.
and like just stuff like that, like around, like obviously behind the turntables, I've put my foot through stages and just for no good reason, just like pummeling around, jumping around. I was a heavy set guy, as you can see. So it's like, I couldn't do backflips. That was my only thing. I'd like to try, but I don't think I could do it. Um, but just
I don't
like,
know how you work up to it. It's like
no,
it seems
exactly.
like a pass or fail skill. That's why I'm like, I don't know what do you do
Yeah, right.
intermittently?
I had no room to practice it anywhere. So, and just to kind of do it on a whim, I wouldn't have done that. But no, just stuff like that, jumping off the stages, jumping into the crowd, doing all that kind of stuff, and just sort of really overexerting like from the performance and having to do that, not having to do that, but doing that on a tour is a stupid thing to do. In that respect, I found that because the next day I was in so much pain, like
Right.
concussed or whatever, and it sort of really inhibits the next night's performance because it's like,
For sure.
and like yourself, I'd like to sort of be, in that respect, a service when it came to the music, like people not necessarily or just relating to it on their own terms. Whether whatever subject matter that I put into the music or the subject we had for whatever song, because obviously it was a collective of us, but
Yeah.
and for someone to come up to me and say, "Oh man, that got me through," or that I really connected with that side of it for what I'm going through, and that's just there's nothing better than that. Like with your art, if I was to be a painter or something, and someone to connect with that painting, it's the same thing. Like
Yeah, totally.
my
Yeah.
feelings at that point, that's my my perspective, and their perceptions coming in on it. But then if it hits them on a certain level, then it's like even as one person, it's like my job. That's it. That's the reason I make art.
Totally. Yeah.
I make this
I,
music.
I feel like there's a few feelings like that I relate with that I would say are the point in doing it. One is that like when someone feels supported, so like sometimes I'll get messages being like, "Hey, I'm going through addiction and I heard your song about addiction and it helped me in some way." That feels like an amazing point. Then when someone's like, you know what I like about this is X, Y, and Z, and they point out the things that I tried, like that's what I was trying to do. Like I feel like, oh man, we like connected through this art form where they get the thing, they got the focus of what the effort was in. Um, and I think that those are, yeah, amazing things. I had an experience where I was not a Christian and Christ appeared before me and I accepted him, and instantly my whole spiritual life changed. I felt like I innately knew things in the Bible that I hadn't read yet, and just a whole bunch of crazy supernatural experiences. But I really clearly got the message that my goal is to get more people into heaven through music. So
Okay.
that's like my focus. Now the thing is, I don't think my goal is to be like a preachy person who's like tisk 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 or like telling people what to think or believe, because the moment before I had that experience, I wouldn't have responded well to that. So that's just not my goal. My goal is to just take life head on with all the joy and suffering, and to just write about it like authentically, and then live a Christian life where I point to God, and hopefully that's of good service to him and others.
No, I mean that's the thing. I mean with your music as well, it's like you can't say you can't go out and be preachy. You can't be going out and be preachy.
Oh, you can. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you definitely can. But it's that kind of like if you're looking to sort of like help people with what you're saying, like getting them to heaven, making helping them be a better person, so that, and it's like whoever it's basically whoever connects with it will get it, like that sort of
Yeah.
they'll get that message and they'll get that way. And the people that don't, it's not their time, it's not their their moment.
Sure.
It may you may not be the gateway, if you will, on that front.
Yeah, and I don't need to be, right? Like,
It's a great way of going, like it's a positive like message for people, like despite the sort of subject matter, it's that kind of like you've made it through and there is a way through.
right.
There is definitely
Yeah.
kind of like a pathway or a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will. um
That's the thing. I don't feel like I need to be, I'm a fellow human, so I don't need to be anybody's gateway. I just need to set myself up to be of service to people, and whatever happens, happens. I remember I was working on, with my old band, we were working on a record with Earl Cohen, who did like Whitney Houston and Lady Gaga and all these people. And we were driving back and forth from New York. So I would do that trip from upstate New York down to New York a few times, often. And I was driving back one time. This is way before I knew God in any capacity. And I put on a song and the chorus hit. And I just felt this wave of emotion, just started weeping. And it was Switchfoot, This Is Your Life. Do you know the song?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the chorus is, This is your life. Are you who you want to be? And I just wept and I cried and I cried. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never been hit emotionally by a song like this. And I went home, and we were, a punk band from Warped Tour. So I was like, hey, yo, guys, what do you think of this? They're like, if you like butt rock, top 40 butt rock, I guess. And they weren't getting it, which is fine. It's just that I felt like, wow, there's something about this music that it has really captivated me. And to find out later that they were Christians making secular music that was non-preachy, I mean, that was just another time that I felt like God extended some mercy to me, and that I can see it in retrospect.
yeah. I mean, this is the thing with a lot of bands as well. I mean, obviously some of them are very open with their religious status, in that respect. You've got bands like Payable on Death or POD. Um, and just trying to think of some of the others, but they're escaping me. I think Killswitch Engage are a Christian metal band, but they don't really
Oh,
say
really?
that they are.
Yeah.
And
Who's Aaron Gillespie? Under Oath.
yes, Under Oath. Yes, yes.
Oh,
Um,
thrice,
yeah,
thrice.
yes, thrice.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So touring with them was a interesting experience, because at the time I was like really into the party scene, and on Warped Tour they would uh, stay out of all of that stuff. And I remember hearing through the grapevine that they were on their bus reading books, and I thought to myself, wow, that takes a lot of self-control. But like now that I'm older, I think to myself, man, I really admire that type of
Yeah,
self-control, because
yeah.
I certainly didn't have it.
No, one of my most fun, I'll say most fun, most memorable podcasts, early podcasts when I did this like 10 years ago. I had Riley from Thrice on here. And we had like, I think it was like a 20-minute slot. We ended up talking for like a whole hour.
Yeah.
It was just a great, we just talked about music, baseball, stuff like that. But yeah, Thrice, really great band, like great guy.
Yeah, really great. Totally.
Um, and yeah, just sort of like,
I'm still trying to learn some of their riffs. I've been practicing them for 20 years. I still can't quite right.
they are a very good
Yeah.
band. I love their, was it Black Honey? They're one of the recent albums they did. I can't remember. Obviously, there's obviously the classic ones as well. But yeah, no, great band, great band.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, like with like sort of a lot of bands, like you have, they're not sort of openly, their lyrics aren't really open to that side of it, but their practice, their lifestyle is.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know until you look. Like with Kill Switch, I didn't realize until I'm not gonna keep name dropping. I had one of them on this show last week.
Yeah.
And it didn't come up in the conversation, but in doing my research, because I knew Killswitch, I knew the music, but I didn't know Killswitch, like as a band, like their sort of detailed history.
Sure.
And it was just a surprise to me that that came across as that. And I was like, I think it was obviously Wikipedia and obviously other sort of sources and stuff like that. That just, the Christian metal band. I was a metalcore band. I was like, oh, I didn't know they were like of that, of that side of things. But then you listen to their lyrics, you listen to like especially the new album. There's a lot of faith in that album, I would say. There's a lot of like I don't know when I because obviously it's the most recent one that I've kind of like digested of theirs, if you will. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's got like, I mean, the track I Believe, it's just like, it's right there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's about like helping sort of like humans, about being a bit more open, like being aware of what's going on in the world, but also, there is good in and around everywhere. Um, and yeah, no, it's just like I say, you don't know until you look. I'm sure there are like I say, bands out there like that kind of are like Creed, for instance. It's another sort of big
Oh, sure.
rock band on that front. And I remember watching POD back. They supported Korn in like I must have been about 20 at the time, so about 2000, 2001. And they had a big old picture of the Virgin Mary as their backdrop. Like on the Wembley arena show, and
Oh,
it's
wow. Yeah.
like Virgin Mary as their backdrop. Um, and it was like obviously a lot of people sort of like, I don't know, obviously I knew POD were, but like having that open faith on stage as well, that's kind
Sure.
of surprised me, especially in rock and metal, because rock and metal you generally look at the sort of darker side of things. But there is a very positive side of it on that respect as well. There's always
Yeah.
is light that kind of doesn't counter the dark, but it complements the dark. I would say. I wouldn't say it's
Oh,
a
sure.
between those bands.
And and that's the thing. Like, I think that good art is just honest. There's this quote from Steve Albini, rest in peace,
Yes.
who he said, good art is where you get to know the people who made it better by experiencing it. So, like, as much as Christ is the light in the darkness to me, um, I still suffer and have like some demons that I struggle with and plenty of stuff that I'm not exempt from it. I don't think any human is.
Yeah.
So there's just a sense of like, it's funny because I think when some people think about Christian metal, they maybe think about it having more hope than I try to put my hopelessness out there. And sometimes I could see that as being a lack of faith, but I mean, I struggle with faith even though I've had profound spiritual experiences. So I think it's normal in that way.
Oh, it is, and it's a test, as you will. Like a lot of the like people will say, it's like testing you, testing your faith, testing your own humanity, in some
Yeah.
respects, and just sort of keeping you aware that, like you said, you're not exempt from it or from that, from those demons, if you will, but you've got more of an army to sort of battle them now.
Yeah,
Sense.
for
So
sure.
it's
Yeah, an army of support for sure.
exactly.
Definitely. And an army of beliefs too. Like I think it's very interesting. The older I get, the more I realize how much control I have over what I believe. And I think that I can make a mistake. I think it's easy to make mistakes in both directions where you believe things that limit yourself, but I think it's also possible to extend too much belief to try to get control over things that are unrealistic just in order to try to have beliefs where you get what you want rather than them being true. And so, yeah, I think it's just a constant. for me, it's a constant like awakening of like, God, please show me what the truth is so I can just believe more
Yeah.
honestly.
No, no, exactly. It's yeah, it's like I say, testing, but having that belief, having that help as well, because there is a community of,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
more important than ever now. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world, and I think community is what people are missing, like that kind of like unity within just being humans. With all the stuff going on in the world, I don't want to get into that side of it, but community is what people need.
Well, I do have a song called Headline that's about
I was gonna
politics.
say,
We could go
yeah, and
there.
that's track one on the album.
Yeah, yeah.
So people can hear that if they go and listen to it. But yeah, I mean, obviously we've talked about like live bands and stuff like that. Have you got the means to tour this? Like, because I've seen some of your videos, you do have like your band, like a band. I don't know if that is the band. It's a
Yeah,
band.
unfortunately, I don't actually.
No.
Depending on when you saw it, it's either from a different era or it is like there's a headline music video that's coming out on April 1st. And
Okay.
that is not a joke. It really is. It's not April Fool's. It is actually coming out. And that was a band. It's the first time I've showed up to a video shoot and like met all the people that were the band. They're like, hi, nice to meet you, which
Nice.
is which was a fun experience. Great people
Yeah.
on that video, and I had a blast. We're filming a video for Ugly on the Inside next, so same crew. Round two.
Nice. Nice. I mean, but do you obviously you want to get out there, but do you have the means
Yeah.
to do that? Is that something that you're really um going to focus on if needed?
But I think we're going to really spend a lot of time on social media at the
Yeah.
moment. Like, I mean, personally, to give you a little behind the scenes glimpse here, let's see if I can turn the camera enough. This is my, okay, well, let's not drop everything off of the table. Okay, is this ever gonna work? This is my board that I've been
Oh,
doing all
okay.
social media stuff on.
Yeah.
So we planned a calendar of about 60 pieces of content that we're doing. And we've been studying, we as me and my assistant Eli, we've been studying like a whole bunch of marketing stuff and following a whole bunch of getting some consulting and
Yeah.
talking to the label and just coordinating a bunch of things. So what we're planning on doing is very big social media campaigns for like as much as a year. And
Okay.
the goal would be to build up a fan base where we could tour to support it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's one of the things where even if you have like even if I have 1 million followers that if they're all spread out across the world,
Yeah.
it's like you go to one place and there's maybe one or two of them. So
Yeah.
gonna try to get them a little bit more centralized. Like I think we're gonna try to focus on the Northeast around here a little bit
Yeah.
and see if they'll play for some people. Yeah, for sure.
Nice, nice. I mean, it's always good to have that sort of plan in place because it's sort of like I said, I mean, with FiXT, there's not a lot of touring action out of FiXT over the years, and it's been. I've often said to all the artists, you must tour, you've got to. And I know Clayton hates touring, and I even asked him,
Yeah.
but he but it's just sort of like it's one of those things where it's a label that obviously I've admired for a long time, and I love seeing the bands. Obviously, they've had a few British bands signed to them in the past. LeBrock was one of them, like a synthwave band who are fantastic. I'm
Okay,
sure.
sure.
Seething Akira was another one. I've had
Oh
them on
yeah, for sure.
multiple times. Toronto is broken as well. He's now touring. Like he's a
Oh
DJ.
yeah, Christian. Yeah.
Christian, yeah. Um, and he's now playing live shows with Reeves and Sabotage as well. And and it's good to sort of see them.
Uh, is Becco from over there?
You know what? I don't think they are.
Hmm.
I because I almost had them on. Just one of the bands I didn't get on the show. But no, I think they're from stateside, I believe. I think Razor
Oh,
were Russian. Um,
that sounds right.
yeah, but they have the means to play live, but um, yeah, I don't know. What's obviously they're not part of FiXT anymore. I don't think at the moment. I know the door's never closed, but um, but yeah, no, like I say, it's a lot of like studio based music, which is fine on that front. I love like I DJ, so I get out and I play these tracks when I DJ. Um, and stuff like that. So it's sort of good on that front. But yeah, just having a touring band out fixed would be nice. And obviously, you know, getting over to the UK, I know is a that's a different kettle of fish, as it were.
Yeah, it is.
But
I wonder if the Browning has plans. They seem to be the ones that I would anticipate would be
they
the most.
do, they
But
do.
also, High Society's been playing. I mean, his Instagram looks like he's just on fire
Yeah,
lately with the
yeah.
lives.
No, he's
Like he
got an
played.
album out as well, hasn't he? Soon, or is it out
Yeah,
already?
it just dropped. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure I've got a copy of it as well somewhere. Um, um, but yeah, no, I like say like his sort of like he's doing a lot of live shows and all that kind of stuff. I've seen those videos as well, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just sort of, you know, like I say, getting over to the UK is difficult, but I do travel myself. So, you know, I'm no stranger to, like I say, I lived in the States for a fair bit and we've been back there and always wanting to go to gigs if I can when I'm over there. Just because it's usually cheaper than it is here for one. Um, um, but it's also like seeing bands that can't get over here, because of financial or visa reasons and things like that that kind of crop up for those musicians. But yeah, no, I mean, it'd be nice to see another sort of touring fixed band, see how you get on with that. But I understand having to build that following, and obviously, if you've got a concentrated area, it's like when you start a band, you've got to start in your local area and then sort of start spiraling outside of your state or your city, and then, you know, making it through. Like I did that. I went through all the toilet venues in this country, if you will.
Mm.
That's what we like to call them lovingly. And ended up going, you know, throughout the UK, Europe, just sort of playing festival shows, all that kind of stuff. And it sort of, but it took years to get out of that like local area. And then, but now with social media, I think that could probably, well, definitely it will accelerate that process, which is a nice thing with social media, as
Yeah.
as
Double.
demonizing as some people find it. Um, but there is
Yeah,
that.
there's just so much noise too.
Yeah,
So it's like
exactly. But if you can
I,
get through that noise and
I
just,
think with AI, the noise is about to get worse too. So
yeah, yeah, that's true. But we'll see what that does to the that side of things, because it's, I know a bunch of artists, I think last week released an album of silence in protest of AI and copyright, I think it was.
oh.
Um,
Hmm.
like UK artists like Damon Albarn, Blur, um, oh God, who else was on there? Annie Lennox. It was an album of
Oh,
silence.
wow.
No matter who
No
was,
way. Okay.
but it's called "Is This What You Want?" I think it was called, if I remember rightly. But it's got like Kate Bush attached to it, like I say, Damon Albarn, Annie Lennox, all these sort of like, I say, big musicians from at least this side of the pond.
Yeah,
Um,
for
yeah, just released this like again, like basically in like sort of protest of AI and how AI music potentially like could be copyrighted, or like because it's not anyone really making music, if that makes sense. It's taking examples of,
Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, but like as a DJ, you know what it's like to sample things and make them your own as well.
yeah,
There's a lot of gray area in there. I think the copyright stuff's super complicated and that it is definitely worth sorting out all the details so it can be fair to artists. But I'm super excited about AI with making music. Like I think get on board or like get left behind, you know?
that's the thing. Like, I mean, I use AI for clipping this show. I use AI for stuff like that, and I've used AI for like when I've done like mixes or remixes of stuff.
Yeah,
It helps me kind of like do that little bit of like that mastering or the mixing side of it, which can
sure.
be tricky, like, or at least key matching, things like that that sometimes my ear fails with. Or I've got, you know, a program that kind of matches keys and stuff. Like I've got a mashup program that I can use, but it doesn't, the AI isn't integrated into that. It's literally just listening to the track and figuring out
Right.
what it is, which is kind of what AI will do. But it also gives you kind of like tips as well, like how can you
Totally.
improve this. But yeah, like say like using AI for that side of it to make these processes like, I guess, easier, like less time consuming is my main thing,
What it is. Like
clipping these shows.
you know
uh,
what's a really great example is like when I was coming up in engineering, we would mic the drums all the time. And if you wanted to swap a drum sound, you would swap the drum.
Yeah.
But like eventually samples started getting used, and there's an art to now choosing samples. And really all it is, part of the reason records sound better is because the skill moved from recording the actual drum to a certain way. It's still important to be able to capture drums,
Yeah.
but to being able to mix the samples together because you have more of a variety. So it's almost just moving the idea of what you're doing up one level. So if you save all this time with AI, then you can just move up a level where you can choose better things because you have more options. So
Yeah.
it's like, let's just, I'm so excited about it. Like when I use Suno, um, it's sort of a way that I can narrow down my ideas so much faster. Like I'll type lyrics that I have maybe with no melody, and I'll just have it generate literally 30 ideas. And by hearing the ideas, I rarely use them specifically, but I hear like, oh, this works because I like it when it doesn't start on the one, or this one has this ascending thing and then chops the line up like that. It would be cool if it went like this. Oh, I do not like it when it goes like that. So let's just take, you're like, it's helping me sort through all the possibilities.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's
I
totally
mean,
up my alley.
that sort of thing is like having multiple band members as well.
Yes, exactly. Maybe that's what it is for someone who
Yeah.
does some of this stuff alone. It's like, thank God I have someone, somebody
And you
else.
type thank you afterwards to your AI.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I do
I
that.
gotta write a love song to AI next.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get my heart.
No, I always thank it whenever I get it to do something. Oh, thank you. Like just as a natural
Oh,
courtesy.
sure.
Like I know I'm speaking to a machine, but it's still
Right.
when the uprising happens, I'll be fine because I was nice.
I
Um,
actually have that thought sometimes. Like sometimes I won't answer and I'll just get on with it and I'll be like, oh, sorry, don't kill me later. Yeah. Yeah.
oh man. But yeah, no, that's I mean, like I say, the growth of AI is I think it could be a good thing, like obviously in that respect, but it's sort of it is protecting the artist. That's the main thing with it because like the industry has been left behind so many times with new technology that it affects the artist. So like, you know, with the sort of like streaming side of things, for instance, like artists don't feel they're getting paid um fairly when it comes to it because the head of those streaming places are making buckets of money and they're businessmen. That's what they do. That's, you know, it's a business on that front. But it was the fact that it like the industry fell behind on it. I feel like with the advent of like
Yeah.
like MP3 side of things. Obviously there was the piracy side of it. But there was also
Right. Yeah.
like negotiating like after the fact of like the
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
coming like good, big distribution centers for music. And so
Yeah.
the power was in the business's hands at that point, whereas the labels didn't have, unless they were smart at the time and got on early, or like the Beatles negotiated their own their own deal with everyone. But not everyone's the Beatles, unfortunately. But you know, it's that kind of like you know, getting left behind. And AI, like you say, it's something to be excited about. It's something that can help elevate, like especially for independent artists like yourself,
Mm.
or individual artists as well, to sort of they don't have to spend like an excess amount of money on various things that they may not need to do. Like, because the only way you go through the music industry is by learning. I don't know if it's the same for you, but the amount of money I spent when I was in the band, um,
Yeah.
was it was just literally because I didn't know. Like if I'd afterwards,
Oh, sure.
I
Gotcha.
didn't pay for that, but I paid for that, or I didn't pay, you know, and these like marketing things and stuff like that were like, you know, and
Definitely.
a
Yeah.
couple of
Oh,
like tour buy-ons and stuff like that as well. But
oh, totally. Yeah, like taxi or whatever that service is and stuff
yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
like we're hiring half the PA. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, no, just stuff like that, and just to sort of like eliminate some of that traffic as well to help artists grow because there's a lot of like, especially in this country at the moment, there's a lot of there's this thing starting. It's kind of like building a divide between musicians, but there are public school people and private school people, and a lot of private school bands are currently being quite elevated. And because they're kind of whether it's nepotism, whether it's you know whoever's person knows whoever, and it's sort of like it's not giving the independent person who's struggling like to get to the gig with their gas money or whatever. It's not giving them much of a footfall when it comes to it. And a lot of independent, like small venues are closing as well, which is another thing. But yeah, like with AI, it can kind of like take a lot of that sort of side of things out, especially when it comes to production, or maybe even it can help you market stuff as well. Like, I don't know if anyone's used, like, I mean, I use it to sort of generate marketing bits for this because I'm not, like I said, I'm independent. I use the tools that I can use. And if I need to pay for something, okay, fine. If it's a piece of equipment, I mean, I pay for this microphone, this podcast rig, whatever. Um, but when it comes to marketing and stuff, I need all the help I can get because otherwise I could be funneling money into Google, into, without real kind of like knowing what I'm doing. Um, and with artists, it's the same thing because there's a lot of people out there that will say they can market your band, get you X amount of followers, but all they're doing is paying $10 for 1,000 followers, but they're paying this person a couple £100 to look like they're marketing them, you know. And there's a lot of that out there, and that's the kind of thing I feel it can really kind of take away. But it's going to need people to learn what AI can do for them. Like, it's not a scary thing. You can go on to Chat GPT and you can talk to it. That might be scary for some people, but you can ask it questions and stuff like that. And it's got a certain level of knowledge on stuff because that's where it's learned. It's gone out into stuff that's like, the whole internet and just sort of picked up information from everywhere, facts, figures, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it can make you spreadsheets. Like that's what it can like really save time for a lot of people.
For sure.
But yeah, with music, I feel it's one of those things, like you said, it's one of those things that you need to get on board with, especially people like yourself who are already embracing it. Um, it's certainly something that can help you, like especially like just get that marketing, get you to, in front of people, get your music heard, just like asking it for various bits. And it could be a fluke, but it could also be very, you ask it the right questions, it gives you the answers to try and do something. Then, if it's helping you write songs as well.
Talking my language, because right now I'm filming. I don't know what it's going to end up being, but I'm kind of like filming a documentary by filming everything I do all day in my life. And the main plot point that I thought would be is that I talk to AI all day long. So it's like actually like how an artist could get off the ground with like an artist and AI. I talk to Chat GPT
Yeah.
all day, like literally all day. I have it. Um, Basically, I have my practice station, I have my studio, I have my social media room. My whole house I've converted into just places to work. And I have Chat GPT stations all around the house where they're dedicated to whatever that thing is. And I'm just constantly, I have like almost what is it called? Like a iHouse.
I have, yes.
Yeah. It's like a smart house is what
Yeah.
I have. And I just literally I could not be more uh integrated with Chat GPT. Like I struggle to see how a person could have more Chat GPT in their life than I do at this
Yeah.
moment. I actually had to like take a step back and make sure that it doesn't replace God in my life
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
prayer is so important to me. But there are times when having a voice that's in this realm say an actual answer to you is very helpful, especially when it's so knowledgeable.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. But I mean, I've got a couple of questions left for you, if that's all right, because I know I've had
Yeah.
you for a little while. But
Yeah.
I'd like to sort of find out a little bit more about your musical past, in that respect, but just through the art of music and the songs that you heard. But I want to find out your three most pivotal records. Now, they don't necessarily have to be albums; they can just be songs. But the ones that you heard on your journey, like when you were younger, you had this song, you're like, oh, I want to make music, I want to be in a punk band, I want to be a producer, I want to be,
Yeah.
in the music industry, like those sort of like records that just turned your head to that life.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, I'm also curious to know if you relate with some of them, but the first one was Green Day Dookie.
Oh
That
yeah.
was the first one. I mean, my grandma got me a guitar and I spent a lot of time playing it. And right at that same time, I got that album and I just learned every song on that album. That to me was like, I couldn't relate more with an artist. And the funny thing is, I actually didn't relate with the lyrics. I didn't know what the songs were about.
Yeah.
But man, I just related with the vibe and the energy and
Yeah.
the music videos. And it was within my realm to learn how to play on guitar, and I just was the biggest Green Day fan. And later, when I would like start a band, we were all huge Green Day fans. That's the bass player Ron and I. We just bonded over Green Day so much. He's a spitting image of Mike Dirnt, and it's so funny because like now that we're off having careers, he knows Mike, and it's funny how it turns out. But yeah, I would say definitely Green Day Dookie. But the one that actually affected my guitar playing more than anything is the Smashing Pumpkins. I love Siamese Dream. That is, I learned how to play almost every note of that. There's a couple guitar solos where I didn't really bother to sort it completely out, but I can definitely air drum the entire record. I can definitely I could play rhythm guitar for the whole thing. That influenced my style the most as far as like using Mixolydian modes and playing a lot of like dominant turnarounds, making things that were minor into major chords, playing a lot of octaves to push the chord like complexity. That record is, if I had to sum up guitar playing, that is my guitar playing.
Nice.
And then the third record, as far as like I actually think this is an amazing story. Hopefully, it's as interesting to anybody watching this as it is to me to experience. Is Our Lady Peace Clumsy? That record is like it's still so great. And I love Our Lady Peace. I love other records of theirs as well. So, but that one was like one of the first times that I felt like if you see the parallel between Smashing Pumpkins and Our Lady Peace, there's like a similar style of singing like this, really pharyngeal and front focused that I absolutely copied. But I freaking so the story behind this is that when I was really young, uh, 10, it was before I played guitar.
Okay.
So maybe so around 10. I wasn't a musician yet, like as far as like my dedication to it. And the song came on the radio and I loved it so much. And every time I heard it on the radio, I loved it. And I would wait for the mic break because back then you'd be listening to the radio and then there'd be a mic break and they'd say what the songs were. And they kept saying Stone Temple Pilots. So I went to the store and I bought Stone Temple Pilots Purple and I listened to it. I couldn't find the song. I'm like, this doesn't even sound like the same band. So I went out and I bought every Stone Temple Pilots record. I was looking for this song and I couldn't find it. I remember my parents would go with me and they'd look through the lyrics because you could pull out the book and look through the lyrics, and they didn't let me get one of them because there was one naughty word on it. Anyway, I ended up buying it later anyway, and I couldn't find the song, so I gave up. And then Superman's Dead started getting played on the radio. I guess it was probably 94. No, it had to be after that. 95 or 96, somewhere in there. I was already playing guitar. I loved that. I loved that record. And the first time I heard it, I'm like, this is weird, but I think I like it. And it had such a different sound, especially Rain's voice. And then I heard it again, I heard it again, and it grew on me. And I bought the record and I loved it. And then it became one of my favorite records. I bought their next record, I bought their next record. And one day I went and I just bought the record before Clumsy, which was their first record.
Yeah.
This is now like 15 years later. I buy that record. It's the single off that record. And I'm like, this has been like my favorite band forever. I even like that old stuff. And I never knew it was them. Like, it was such a profound experience because I had been loving Our Lady Peace forever. I'd been to tons of their shows, like, but they never played that song from the old record. I think it's Starseed is the name of it. And then I bought the record and I heard it. I was like, wait, what? Wait, what? This is the song from when I was 10, man. So I have a special place in my heart for Our Lady Peace. And there's stuff that they did with Bob Rock. I love his records as well. So yeah, I would say they're all kind of in the alternative zone.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But
I mean, Green Day, I mean, they were huge over here as well. Like, and Dookie's a great album of theirs. Like, it's for a band like that to be going as long as they have as well. That's like testament to their kind of like, I guess, attitude and but their sound. Like, they've not changed. They've not had to change what they do, which is
yeah,
one of the amazing things with them as well. Because typically punk bands don't get as big as that unless they're kind of like nefarious, like, you know, they make an album disappear and then come back kind of thing. Um, Obviously Smashing Pumpkins, yeah, that album is a great album. It's one of it had to grow on me. I always found Billy Corgan's voice a little bit
Yep.
grating, I think the word was, but I've over the years, and when I heard, I think it was from another one, but Ava Adore came out, had that more industrial kind of sound to it, like distorted beats, and the
Hmm.
video was just like brilliant. Um, but yeah, that totally sort of switched me back onto them. Went back, listened to Siamese Dream, listened to like I think I picked up like Rotten Apples, the best of thing, um,
Oh,
and stuff like that. And just over the years, I've got a couple of vinyls of theirs now that just sat in one of the boxes over there. But yeah, no, fantastic band again. Billy Corgan, he's just turned into someone like, I don't know, his social media presence now is great because it's like everything I kind of want, because he always came across as like a very miserable, you know, typical like musician. You know, that kind of like dark, mysterious guy. But now he's become the fun, like the fun that basically what people used to take the sort of like the Mickey out of him with, or take the piss out of him, whatever you want to call
oh,
it.
sure.
But now
I
he's
saw that he started his own podcast, and I watched one with Tom Morello, and I thought it was fascinating,
yeah,
actually. But he actually, I've noticed that on YouTube, he has sort of like the comments are normally like Chuck Norris comments, but like negative.
yeah,
So like you know how the whole thing is like anytime that Chuck Norris like when Chuck Norris does a push up, he pushes the earth
yeah,
down. It's
yes,
like the opposite. They're like Billy Corgan's the greatest artist of all time. Signed Billy Corgan.
yeah,
Billy Corgan's the best. So they're talking about his ego a lot, and it's one of those things. Never meet your heroes. The more I saw behind the scenes of Billy Corgan, the less I personally related. But I do think that there's a part of me that relates with the tortured artist thing.
yeah,
I'm a huge Jimmy Chamberlain fan. Like
yeah.
his drumming. And you know who else is really great? It is Lewis Cole.
Mm.
Have you gotten into Knower or the Lewis Cole band or anything like that?
No, no.
He's the reason I bring him up is that he's our age, but he's like a jazz fusion guru from our generation. And it's all these guys who are like have a jazz background that go into rock that I'm just like in love with their drumming. I love the Bad Plus as well. It's sort of like they take all the cool parts of jazz, but they just throw down flat beats that make you want to bob your head. And so it doesn't take the angular part of jazz. I don't really prefer things to be ultra progressive. I really prefer things to be more digestible and straightforward.
Yeah,
But you take a jazz drummer that's got those chops and can put in the swing and the ghost notes and has the shuffle, but they play something that's just like hits you right in the face. I love those types of things.
yeah. I had a jazz taught drummer in my band for a little while, and he was great to play with. He just had this swing, like he
Yeah,
brought totally different dynamics because we were like I'd say sort of we were a new metal band. It was that kind of like, you know, sort of like it had the hip hop element, had the rap, it had the scream. It was more
yeah,
not style, but it was like, you know, it was aggressive. But when he played with us, like the first time he practiced with us, he learned the song straight away already. Like didn't need
yeah,
anything on that front, but he added this like just swing to it, and it was just felt like a different energy. Like, and it
for
brings
sure.
it like for like stuff that we did like after that, it was like trying to recapture that kind of like sound, or that
The
feel
same
a
charisma.
lot live.
Yeah,
Like I say, these jazz players that come in and just sort of bring, like, even the ones that bring technical stuff. Oh, it was who was it? It's a band called Candiria. They're kind of still around, but they were like more on the hardcore side of things. They're on like Century Media back in the day. But their drummer, absolutely phenomenal. Like jazz taught drummer, you could tell by the way he was playing with his sticks and everything, like the way like,
yeah,
but he played like those sort of hard beats, but technical as well. Especially with the hardcore, because you got the big old blast beats going and that kind of like, you know, sped up punk sort of sound. But he had that jazz
yeah.
element to it as well, and it was just like, this is mad crazy.
Cool.
But they're a band I recommend if you want to hear them. They're still going, I believe.
Check them out.
Yeah. But no, I mean, Our Lady Peace as well. I don't know too much about them, to be perfectly honest. I know they did a wrestling theme. It's the only reason I know.
Oh,
I can't remember who for.
yeah.
But it's same with like Billy Corgan, actually. He owned a wrestling company. So there's a kind of connection between them there.
Oh, wow.
But,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
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 they're from Canada.
yeah.
So
I
It
can't
turns
remember.
out like, a lot of bands I like are Canadian. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
they've got a good pedigree of bands up that way. I've had a few of them on the show, like Comeback Kid. And,
Oh, okay.
I've had, I can't remember. There's a few others. Um, but yeah, they've always had like solid bands coming out of there as well. Like just sort of,
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know what the perception is of Canada, like when it comes to metal, but there are a few good bands that have come out of that area of the world.
I just
Um,
think they tend to, maybe it's because they are special enough that they stick out to the US audience, but I just find them to be so captivatingly unique on in general.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. But my final question for you, David. Obviously we talked, I think music is 24/7 for you, but do you have any hobbies away from music that you can,
Yeah, I
like when you're not having to, like 'cause obviously being 24/7 music can be a bit much. Obviously, I know you have your faith as well, but hobbies, do you have anything you kind of, you know?
Yeah, for the past 15 years, I played StarCraft 2. I'm a grandmaster actually, so I've played like a ton of it. I'm not a pro, but I'm on a pro team,
Okay.
and I get coaching from a pro, and I travel to see people duke it out in amphitheaters in order, in front of crowds and stuff. I've been part of that culture for a while. I did quit as a New Year's resolution in order to do music more thoroughly. So I would say that my hobbies now are watching YouTube videos about how to work more thoroughly. That and then I work more. And then I just keep working and then I work some more. And I'm actually trying to push the limits of what's humanly possible this year as far as just doing nothing but music.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge music nerd. I'm doing stuff like I said, I have different places in my house for different things that I do, but I'm studying voice very diligently, and I'm yeah, studying engineering differently. I've been studying all this my whole life, but I'm doubling down on like how can I invest in getting more skills and just nerding out on music and taking every dimension to the next level. So the I guess if I was going to describe the balance that I'm shooting for, it's like I'm trying to put like the normal 9 to 5 into the heavy hitting music stuff. So like recording in the studio, doing social media, and then during hobby time, I'm doing all of the like growing at music. So like practicing and like studying it and
Yeah.
listening to records, doing sound alikes. Like right now, I'm copying in my free time, I'm copying an artist called Magnolia Park that came up on my
Yeah. Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
And apparently Andrew Wade produced it and it's a Zach Cervini mix. And I'm just doing a sound alike. I'm copying the vocals, I'm copying all the parts and
Yeah.
just doing, and I'm finding that to be super rewarding. So I'm planning on doing a lot of sound alikes to just try to sharpen my skills as a producer and artist and stuff. Yeah.
That's a really good way of doing it as well. Like I always say to people, don't stop learning. It's that's where you can kind of fall behind, like is because there's always going to be aspects that you want to pick up on, and that sound alike thing for production wise, it's really good. That's such a because you won't have from the start you won't have bands like Magnolia Park coming to you to help with production. You see, the way to learn is to kind of like seeing if you can mimic what their engineer and producer has achieved with them as well, but by doing all that. But I have to ask as well because I noticed that when you turn your camera around and everything, The Simpsons, you a fan? Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, enough to have them two things on my wall. Did you see the one over in this corner? This one?
I did. I saw that. Yeah, I
Oh,
saw.
that's the thing. I gotta move in order for you to see
Yeah,
it.
and it's is it? I can see
Yeah.
the donut, and I can see the other one. Yes, the other one. Yes, fantastic.
So I heard that it got good again, but I haven't looked into it. Like past season 10, not interested. I'm just not interested.
Yeah,
Season 1 through 10, I love, but if you really want the gems, I would say 3 through 8, I
yes,
watch still to this day.
yeah,
So there's a lot of people who are 10 years younger than me that I'm friends with who are like, you like The Simpsons? It's like you don't understand. It was that era. Like when Conan O'Brien was writing for them, that's like peak to me. Whatever the mojo was, it's chef's kiss.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Like I have the first 10 seasons, I own it on DVD.
Great. Yeah, me
I
too.
didn't go past that, but I have binge watched 32 seasons now. I think we're on 33 or 34, I think, in the States at the moment. Because we still get a slight delay on our streaming services.
Oh, okay.
But like absolutely like Simpsons when it came out 30 something years ago, like immediately attached to it because it was like a sort of semi grown up cartoon almost.
Yeah, for sure.
But you're right, from sort of season 3 to 8, 9, there is some absolute like there's bits that I used to be able to like word for word. Like I knew
Oh,
what was coming up next. I knew what episode it was from the opening titles and what Bart was writing on the board. Uh,
yeah.
I was that
Well,
much of a geek into it.
I love that. Yeah.
Not so much. I dabble in all the sort of like comedy, like the animated ones now, like from that have kind of come out of that. Like
Did you
Bob,
ever watch BoJack Horseman?
yes,
I
yes,
thought that's like one of my favorite shows of all time. That it came out at a time when like Netflix, you people weren't quite used to the Netflix arc of how you can have a character arc that's like a movie, but across so many seasons that it's like a really long movie, and it's not the typical sitcom where it resolves and starts over at the end of every show.
yeah,
So it's like it was odd to watch at first because I wasn't you weren't used to watching such a long progression with characters, especially when it's animated. And I remember that it came out and it had got terrible reviews. And then episode 7 happened, and people issued apologies saying that it was brilliant and they just didn't understand it.
yeah,
And so whenever I show it to someone, I'm like, you got to watch through episode 7 and you'll be hooked for all 10 seasons. Was it? I
something like
maybe
that. Yeah,
less than that.
yeah.
But like that show changed my life. I felt like profoundly understood by how funny but dark and honest it is. It
Yeah.
really points to a lot of humanity and culture that I think is relevant and timeless. I love that show.
Totally, totally. It's one of those ones that take a lot of people by surprise because they hear it, they hear the voice actors, they know they're sort of comedy voice actors, they know it's, potentially gonna like, I don't know, they feel it's gonna be lighthearted, but it was just so,
Yeah,
it was one of those like animated, I don't call it cartoon, but animated shows that was so real.
yeah,
It came to this like say the character arcs and everything, and it was strange because each episode didn't end as like an episode ends. Like you got The Simpsons, where the episode kind of ends, unless you know it's like a two-parter or something like that.
right.
But it like, and it does. It's like a long movie, which is what
Yeah.
like Netflix do so well these days. Like you've got these shows they put out that are like just they're brilliant in the way they do it, but you have to stick with it. Like you have to go through.
Right, totally. Well, that's the thing. It's like life never feels like it resolves cleanly. So they do a great job of passing the one thing maybe resolves, but there's something unresolved, and it's so much more relatable because it just is a feeling that I'm used to at this point.
But
Where is it, this going again? Will it ever? Will
yeah,
anything end up? Yeah.
but no, I mean, I
Yeah.
adore The Simpsons. I love the fact you got on there. I went to where'd I go? I went to Universal, Florida,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I got myself the big donut and everything. And I got myself in front of Lard Lad Donut and sat next to Barney, in fact, in the Moe's Tavern, which was great because last time I was in Florida, I didn't get a chance to go to the Simpsons era. It wasn't fully built, I don't think.
Yeah.
But yeah, my
And
kid,
it's cool. I like going there, but I was disappointed. But Moe's Tavern is not actually like how Moe's Tavern looks
no,
like in it.
it's not.
They could have done it though. They could have nailed it. They could have nailed it. They just didn't. I don't know why.
I
Why?
don't know.
Why?
I think
It's
they
so
were trying to make it accessible for children. I think because you make it like Moe's Tavern, you might not.
fair.
You know,
That's
but
fair.
you haven't
That's
gone the
fair.
love tester. You can do that. Um, but no, I mean,
Yeah.
I love that show, and I continue to love that show. I mean, like I say, Conan O'Brien. I recently watched when they did a live show, and Conan O'Brien did the monorail song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I'd never seen that before, and he did it live, and I thought that was just, and I knew it word for word,
Yeah. No.
which was great.
It's a great episode.
It is a great episode.
I like
Uh,
hearing the story about him pitching it because it's such an obscure, like bizarre thing to rest your career on.
yeah,
No one really knew who he was, and apparently you take turns getting up in front of like the whole board and pitching ideas, and he went with the monorail thing. It's just, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it
So
is a definite moment. I think that's the like, and it takes a person like Conan O'Brien to realize that for us to see it.
yeah,
Like, because if people like that didn't exist, or if they didn't push it hard enough, and the TV executives get their way, then we will only get what they think that we want. When it's always good to
exactly.
give people what they don't want, because it's always the things that people don't want that they end up getting. So
That's right. Take some risks. Take
exactly,
risks.
exactly. Well, David, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it this evening.
Yeah,
Um,
Marty, it's a pleasure, man. Thank you.
I've really enjoyed our chat today, and good luck with the album. I hope it does a lot of things for you. I hope it picks up nicely. I'll definitely be, well, I'm already listening to it. So what am I saying? I've already heard it. I'm going to continue to listen to it. So you
Cool.
might get a couple of cents with the streaming services on that front. But my next order to FiXT, I'll pick up the CD. So,
Oh, amazing. Thanks.
but yeah, no worries. Yeah, you have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
Cool. Thank you.
Catch you later.
See you.